So today's guest is Julie McKnight. Julie is a performer. She's traveled all over the world singing with her band, Ninth Street Protocol. Now, I saw her perform at a songwriters round at the Cary Theater in February, where I was struck by her talent. But then after the show, I was so struck by her kindness and most of all, her positive energy. Now, being a singer is one of the many layers of Julie. She also has worked in therapeutic counseling and the foster care system, has taught preschoolers. She has a nonprofit called Carolina's Child, which brings the arts to inner city youth. But her biggest passion, and I mean her biggest passion, is family. She was a single mom, a celebrity wife, and is now part of a blended family. She's written about it in her new book, which she's going to talk about. Julie, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I was like, who's this woman?
Who are we talking about? This rock star. We're talking about you, lady. We're talking about you because you are a rock star. And I'm so excited to finally get to talk to you because I've been wanting to talk to you since we first met. And I know you're very busy. So thank you for being here today.
I thank you.
Well, I like to talk about people's origin story because I think understanding where somebody has been helps inform where they are today.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about, where you grew up, what your family was like, so on and so forth.
Oh my, let's see. I was born in Pennsylvania. Moved from there when I was young, but I was raised in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay, so there's the music connection.
There's the music. Even though my family, and I don't say this like my whole family. See, they really are artistic in some way, whether they're painters or singers or musicians. So I grew up and just figured this is how everybody's house was.
Right.
So I was raised there. My family, my dad was a minister. After coming out of the ministry, we started our agency for group home and foster care, which took us to Los Angeles. Although my grandmother, let me rewind that, because my grandmother actually started this passion with our family. She had one of the first, now we call them group homes, in Baltimore, that were that little spot where, okay, we're going to take you from the street. You should be in juvie, but my grandmother would say, no, bring them to me first, and that became our passion, that we could kind of be that go between, because a lot of the kids really just needed to stop having to hop around.
And a grandmother is probably
and
the best, can handle a lot of situations better than anyone.
Absolutely. So my dad grew up in the home with all of his foster brothers and sisters, some who were often adopted by my grandma. So we just kept that going. But that took us to Los Angeles, and we stayed there. And then my grandmother said, I've had it. I'm coming back to North Carolina, which is where our roots are. Bertie County, Wilson.
Okay. So you came back to North Carolina.
Yep.
When did you get the music bug? I mean, when did that start for you? Was it very young?
I would say it's very young, but it was so organic because it was just always music in my home. We were always singing. My cousins and aunts and uncles, they were performers, some within the church, some in secular in in the worldly music, and and so it was always there. I actually wanted to do theater initially. I wanted the whole fame and move to New York, movie and dance and all, I wanted to really do theater. And that's what I went to high school, one of the only School of the Arts in South Central, George Washington Prep. And that's when I got the real bug at about 15 to perform, just because I loved it. So thank God for it, because that got me through high school.
And when we have these dreams, right? life is still happening all around us.
Yes,
And
yes,
that doesn't stop. So sometimes those dreams get interrupted, sometimes they
yes.
get pushed to the side.
Hmm.
Talk about how your personal life intersected with this, because I know you were a single mom,
Yeah.
and at one point you were married to an R&B performer, Brian McKnight, and
Hmm.
so probably at that point you're kind of supporting his dreams, raising
Yes.
a family. Talk about how those things intersected for you.
You are absolutely right because he and my first husband I met in, well, our families grew up together. His parents and my parents, they were always close. But so my vision was always in some way to be a part of, you know, the industry. Um, but still was focusing on more theater. And then my college as a freshman, I loved it, Huntsville, Alabama. And my wonderful firstborn surprised me. So I made it through a couple of semesters and then I came home. But then their dad followed shortly after. And you are absolutely right that even though I kept doing, demos for people, back in the day when an artist would go in, demo a song, the record company would take it, and a main artist would then learn it and sing it. I did that for a long time, and all the while still, finishing training to become a counselor officially with foster care, all while waiting for this baby boy to come and their dad getting thrust right into the music industry. So you're right. I did kind of have to say, oh, well, let me just sit back for a minute physically. And, once I became a mom and he was here, that by that time, their dad had taken off. So, of course, like women often do, say, okay, we're going to support him and take care of this baby. Thank God for my village because I had my grandparents and my parents and aunts and uncles. There were 14 of us living in this one house, which
Oh,
included,
wow.
yeah, which
Where was
included,
that? Was that in North Carolina?
no, this was in Los
Oh,
Angeles.
this was still Los Angeles.
This was
Okay.
South Central Los Angeles. And, and that included six of my baby foster brothers. So
Mm.
we've always been a train of gypsies anyway, and I loved it.
14's a lot, though. 14 is a big
Or
house.
that we've still got seven here now, so we
Okay.
kind of what we've downsized a bit to
I
seven.
gotcha. But you're in North Carolina now
But now I'm in North Carolina.
with the seven. So,
Yes.
and I do want to talk more about your music career, but you have had so many different careers. And
Hmm.
one of the things you just mentioned was this therapeutic counseling, working with foster children. You said that was part of your family upbringing, really. So,
Yes.
talk about that. I mean, it sounds like you're still doing this, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think we'll ever stop doing that because it truly, truly is children, kids, young adults, because we actually have I was going to say our babies. They hate when I do that. Because some are in their 40s. Some are, let's see, I'm 53. Some are close to 50. I was raised with a lot of them that were really like my brothers and sisters or my aunts and uncles. So that is a huge passion that has carried through to all of us. My siblings, my brothers are also foster parents and counselors, and my cousins have been because it's just we see the need, and oftentimes, especially our boys. I love our girls, and but there's so many resources for our girls. There's there's in comparison, there's just not as many for our boys, to mentorship, to learning a trade, to knowing what to do once they've come off the street or they've just had to be the man of the house with six other siblings. They really don't have the tools. And we start to see them younger and younger, and families of kids, siblings with four or five of them that are just no one,
Is
so.
looking out for them. It's really interesting because if you think about it, this is a time in our country where we've talked a lot about what do we do? What do we do? How do we
Yeah.
help young people? How do we intervene?
Hmm.
And this is kind of one of the oldest things
Yeah.
around foster
Yes.
parenting.
Yep.
And the way you're making it sound is like this is like a back to basics thing that maybe we need to really
Hmm.
focus on and put resources towards.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. We're not, many of our boys and girls that are now men and women were straight from more institutional facilities. Um, Oftentimes they'd come to us, and we were able to, through therapy, truth therapy and counseling. Many of them were taken off of their medication. Many of them have found the tools to figure out what happened, deal with it, the trauma, the abuse, physically, sexually, mentally, everything. They learned to handle it without the use of the medication, so they could function through life in a different way. I'm just that now that's my mom and dad's
You got to be
philosophy.
proud of that when they come back to you,
Hmm.
and they're doing well, right? And
Yes,
say thank you.
absolutely. They have their own families, and it's the best feeling. One of my baby brothers now, he's the baby of the ones that have gone on to, he's now at St. Aug. And it's the best thing because we'll wake up in the morning and he's on the couch and we're like, "Where'd you come from?" He's coming
What?
to eat and wash clothes.
How many children do you think you've fostered total?
Oh, wow.
It's okay if you
That's
don't know. I was just curious.
it's easily hundreds, easily, because there was
That
a
would be
point
between you and your family.
that was between
Yeah.
me and my family. Yep, and we always did it together, unless my brother and sister-in-law would often have, and my aunt and uncle would often have their home, and each home followed the philosophy to be more organic with them, and it's your family. You come in and they want to say mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or Auntie Julie or whatever. They knew that this was their family.
A sense of belonging.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I mean, this plays into your nonprofit, Carolina's Child. Talk to me about that.
Oh, that's our baby. That's one reason why I'm glad I'm able to be home a little more this year and ongoing, because it's really a space where we want to bring kids who, because so much music is gone from school. So many of the arts programs are gone. And years ago, we adopted Southeast High and Hillside High, where we would do, they would put on fashion shows and they would do spoken word, anything that's the arts. But what we have found is the branches of the arts now, it's changed because you've got the technology, and these kids are teaching us the AI, and they're teaching, so we want to incorporate all of that now in spaces around different communities, whether it's in a church or a building that's not really being used, where kids have somewhere for an after school or a Saturday night, or just to meet with other kids safely. And we often bring different artists and celebrities to do workshops. Last one we did was at Shaw, excuse me, and we try to just bring so they can meet the people that are doing what they want to do and keep them encouraged with that.
That's awesome because I agree with you. The arts are so important for
Mm-hmm.
young people and just for to have that creative space and that
Yeah.
encouragement.
Yes.
Now, you are doing music though. You are doing it full force. I have seen you out there. So talk about how did you go from this, single mom, counselor, foster mom? How did you create this what is now, your profession, being a singer, being a performer?
Well, I'll tell you, I think. My blessing was, at the time I didn't look at it that way, was when I always thought my babies were a blessing, and when they started to get older and I circled back to their dad, who was my husband at the time, I was like, okay, you said that if we did this and now I'm ready, they're older, they're both in school, and I was given the, well, no, only one star in this house kind of
Oh,
true, really that was what was given to me. And so needless to say, that type of attitude and many other things, he was no longer around, and I was still raising my babies. They were 6 and 3, so that kind of pushed me to say, what is it? I always wrote, um, always knew I wanted to do that, always knew that I wanted to in some way do music. So I went back to doing the demos again, because that at least got me in the studio and got me some money in my pocket, because at the time everyone had moved from California here to to North Carolina, but I was still in LA. So the agency was getting set up. I was suddenly needing to say, okay, so I need to, what am I doing with my life? But I was young. I was 24. So, but I always used to say I felt dog years older than everybody in my age group. And, but I was still younger than most of the other, soccer moms that, this is the Valley in Los Angeles.
right.
So I did not.
But you had lived a lot of years at that point.
I had lived a lot of years at
So,
that
what does
point.
it look like now? What does this career look like now that you've been building for 30 years?
It's amazing. But even mine, I did the one demo, sent it in to an overseas record company, and they were like, we don't want to find an artist. Who is this singing it? We want to use her. I had no idea until I was up for a Billboard Top 100 dance album chart, and I was like, that's me. And then
So
I
it was like
realized,
you were just
oh,
thinking, I'm going to write
yeah,
songs. And
that was it.
here's an example. And
Yep.
they were like, no, we want you to sing it.
They were like, and because I demoed it as well. So my cousin actually wrote it. I sang it, and we sent it in, just in a package of other ones. And they love, now I had no idea this was going on because it was in Europe. So I'm just tootling along, making cookies and you know wiping noses and writing and raising my babies, figuring out how to be single again and raise my sons and not feel out of place when I went back to college. So all, and that was it. Once
What's the name of that song?
that song is finally,
Okay.
that one
So
is finally.
did that open the door? I mean, did
Yep.
that lead to the music career?
Oh, that opened the door and led to all of it. And it just took me right overseas. The next thing I knew, I went overseas once. My cousin, who was DJing at the time, he's since come out of it, left me to handle it. And he had a gig and said, come, you take me. And it just blew my mind. I'm like, these people know this music, because I had recorded maybe four that had been released. And I'm like, I'm just sitting home and not knowing that any of, but that, now that was the bug. The first time I went, and there, everybody was singing along, and
What does
it
that
gave
feel
me goose.
like?
It feels like a huge, the only way I can explain it, just feels like a big, huge hug. Because I know what music means to me, and when I hear a favorite song come on, you remember where you were, whether it was good or bad, or if you're with your friends, and that's what I feel when folks start singing. It's
Well,
just they're having a good time.
what I loved about seeing you at that writers roundtable was that there were some young musicians there.
Mm-hmm.
And you got up there and knocked it out of the park. I mean, this is, you've been doing this a
Thank
long
you.
time, but you were so supportive of them and you gave them so much positive energy and positive feedback. Is that part of what you think an artist's responsibility is to help other people in the industry?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I was blessed to have. Even in my home, before I knew certain people were celebrities, I was with Clifton Davis, who wrote "They Never Can Say Goodbye" in acting and theater, and he gave me the Broadway theater bug. Tony Award winner, but there were celebrities that were around me that I didn't pay it. I was young,
You didn't know
so
they were
I
celebrities,
didn't
right?
know Nina Simone was Nina Simone. I didn't know Nancy Wilson was Nancy Wilson, or the Emotions, or Earth, Wind, and Fire, or Andre. There were people, and then when I got older, I'm like, that's who was
Yeah, I met them.
that's who was in my
My
house and
house.
just hanging out, and or poets like Nikki Giovanni, or these that were just I was able to be interactive with. So, and I just remembered that they were always so, you can do it, and supportive of me, and also would give me, the constructive criticism. But they just, and more than that, they were relatable. I could touch them. I just remember the hugs and the smiles and them being proud of me, at a really, really young age. So, and it made, because I was shy. I still get nervous when I have
I
to do
can't
things.
believe that, Julie, because
I
you don't seem
do.
shy at all on stage. Do you know how many songs you've recorded now?
I'm not, let's see, in the dance. Oh wow. In the dance genre, it's about 20. And those are, because they do those differently. You do this, they're more as in singles.
Right.
But having recorded with other people, it's hard to say, and background or whatever.
Do you remember the most exciting time that you recorded with somebody that was, famous or celebrity?
Let's see. The funny thing is, I always did the recordings and sent them to them.
And then they added
And
it
then
in.
I would hear them do those tracks.
Right.
And that would be, but I never really
You
got
weren't
to,
with them,
I
right? You weren't.
wasn't with them. But some of the greatest, advice and training I was given, it was in the studio with the Emotions, whoa, whoa, got the best of my love, and they took me in. They were the first ones that put me on stage, and they were like, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, in front of an audience. That was huge for me. So I had many that mentored, but so it was more like that.
I get chills when I just hear you sing like that one little bar. I'm like, oh gosh, she's so good. So you did backup singing too for a lot of people,
Oh,
it
I
sounds
would
like.
absolutely. I would sit in with anybody. It was even now. There's. It's never a time where I'm like, well, no, that's only doing back. No, anytime I can sing,
And
just like
collaborate.
with Jason, he just texted me this morning. There's a fundraiser that he's gonna give me some more information about. But he knows anytime he and his band call me, or because I just feel like it's a community,
Right.
and
And
I
that's
I love
Jason.
it.
For our listeners who don't know who that is, that's Jason
Jason
Aldean, correct?
Adamo.
Adamo. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
that's
gonna
it. That's him.
Jason Adamo,
Jason
and
Adamo.
he's a country singer.
Yes,
And you're not, but you do a little bit of everything, right? You do a
I
little bit
do
of
that.
everything.
I do, and that's the fun part.
So tell me about your book, not to switch gears too dramatically, but tell me it's called Mama Bear.
Yes,
And what is it about?
it's called Mama Bear Beautifully Blended, and it's just that. It's about everything you said. It's about becoming a single mom who I don't think anybody ever really expects that. Um, Becoming a single mom, having come out of a celebrity relationship, and their dad, once we divorced, I found had other children, and those were my son's sisters. So I mean, I was so excited because I'm like, there's girls around. Where did who knew? And so between myself, they're amazing moms. We developed our own relationship, and the kids were able to have been raised together, despite anything else. The boys wanted to know their sisters, wanted to have relationships with them, and you would think they just all were bundled up in one house all of their lives. And after that point, you know, my son has had my three grandbabies, and he's got his set of mama bears, and they're navigating now how to do that as co-parents with two moms that, thank God. Sometimes he'll say, well, they'll post something, the moms and the kids, and they'll say, well, where are y'all? Oh, well, we're out pumpkin patching. He's like, well, nobody told me. But that's what the relationship should be. The
You've
moms,
mentored that. You've
yeah,
mentored that.
oh, and it makes me, it filters down. It's not always easy, but even there were points where my sons moved back to California as preteens, and their dad may have been dating someone with their own children. That helped. So then I would come visit, and that would become kind of sticky because there could have been a previous relationship that I would have to set aside. Okay, well, she was you know, a bit of an extra person in the marriage at the time, but her kids, who weren't necessarily their dads, but they were there. They were a part of the household.
You're not blaming them. You're
Not
embracing them.
ever.
You,
Absolutely.
Julie, that's an amazing way of looking at it, and I don't think a lot of women look at it that way. But it
Hmm.
probably just helped you just to forgive and then
Oh,
to
yeah.
embrace. Right? It's just much easier
Absolutely.
than to carry around resentment.
Yep. Yep.
To
And you want anything that I do, this is also lessons from my home. I have to anticipate my actions, especially raising my sons, their sisters, you know, how how can my actions influence the way they will raise their children or the partners they will choose. I don't want them to be bitter people and no, you don't. No, no, no. The kids are here. These are your brothers and sisters. You're living in a home with them. It doesn't, nothing else makes a difference. You make this work in a respectful way. And as adults, we have to do that, you know.
model that.
Hmm.
Y- Well, you have, gosh, you have done so much in your life. You've been through so much. So many women in their 50s are just like, I don't feel important. I don't
I
feel seen.
know. I
Somebody said
know.
to me the other day that she was a FIP. I said, what's a FIP? She said, formerly important person. And I
Wow.
know. And so, what kind of advice would you give to women who have, done all these things in their life, but now they get to this point and they feel like maybe they're not relevant, maybe they're not being
I
seen or
know. I
heard,
know.
and
I
they don't
know.
know what's available. Is there another chapter?
No, I am here to say there is definitely another chapter and another chapter and another chapter. And it's for me, there's points where I say, I just would love to just do this for a while, and I had to create that mentality or I would have kept going because I always thought if I slowed down, that I all of a sudden no one would remember that I come over to perform, or I strange what your brain does. I never worried that, oh God, there's people that are going to come take my spot, whether it's work or I knew what was for me. But then when I did slow down, I thought, okay, what am I doing with what am I doing with myself? So then I went back to the school and taught. I always would start with what my passions were, and I would do that. Then all of a sudden, there's this thing called dating in your 50s, and no one wants to do that.
Nobody prepares you for that. I think I actually want to, maybe in the new year, I'm going to explore that as a show because I think
Oh,
there's a
please
lot
do.
there.
If
Yeah.
you do a panel on that, and that is enough for any of us to feel less than and not as attractive and older, and where's this music coming. I completely understand where that sister you spoke of is coming from, because even though I do a lot of things, I think all of us at the end of our day are like, this is still not everything I plan to do. This is still not everything that, and now do I have enough time to do it? I'm mid 50s. What am I, and then the anxiety comes, which menopause doesn't help.
What is on your bucket list?
This is the strange thing. Not strange, but this is going to happen. I'm still going to do Broadway. You watch.
Okay, I believe you. 100%. I believe you.
I'm still doing that. I don't care if I start in a small community theater, which I would have done and loved. That's huge, huge bucket list. And I definitely want to start a learning center for the arts that actually is preschool and elementary age. So I want them to begin their arts training that young and let the curriculum really circulate around them. Just children are made to sing and to dance and to jump and hop and learn that way. So I want them to just walk into, that's really the dream that I've had for many, 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 many years, to just, because I really think that music, arts, it just works that part of some of our children's brains that really need that outlet. It's going to be a difference. That's one of, those are my two right now.
They're pretty good ones, and I feel pretty confident that you're going to get there.
I'm going to get there.
How can people follow you?
They can follow me, of course, Facebook. It's just Julie McKnight. There's one that's fan page and one that's my page that I spend more of the time on. But of course on Instagram at its Julie McKnight. And I put everything there. Yep.
Okay, well, I will put those in the notes of the show, and so people will be able to follow you. Julie, this has been such a pleasure. I really am so glad that we finally got to do this.
Me
because
too.
You are a joy. Your energy and your light and your vibe and everything is infectious.
Oh, thank you.
And I think my audience is just going to love you. So thank you so much.
It's a new family of sisters.